meeting to order, starting with a roll call from my right.
Paul Sanderson.
Chester DeRocky, Vaughn Morgan.
Jim Ralston.
Chip Huzzy. And we have a quorum, and the meeting is being recorded. Okay, under appointments, I have one I'm going to kind of sneak in here. I'd like to wish on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and the town of Greenland a very happy 100th birthday to Dr. Elmer Sewell of Breakfast Hill Road.
Oh.
Dr. Sewell received the Boston Post cane, which is passed on to the oldest Greenland resident. So we'd like to wish him a happy birthday. Okay? Okay, second is the approval of the minutes from October 29th. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes of Monday, October 29th as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. From November 1st.
Move we approve as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, under old business, we have the fire department building committee report. Paul, would you mind?
Yes, and we have several members of the fire department building committee here this evening, especially Chief Cresta. After a process, we have made a recommendation as a committee to the Board of Selectmen that we approve Ritchie Construction as our design manager for this. I want to specifically call out our building inspector, Jim Marchese, for giving us tremendous assistance going through the process of the request for proposals to the receipt of these documents in a very quick and timely manner, a quick evaluation of them, and a clear recommendation. Based upon that, if anyone has any questions regarding this, all of our documents are available for the public here in town. We also have written minutes of all of the building committee meetings, so if anyone wants to listen to any of that, they certainly can. But with that, we believe that we've had a good, sound process, and I'd like to make a motion that we approve the retention of Ritchie Construction for the purpose of being design-build contractor for proposed fire station.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I will second that.
And if anyone has any questions, happy to try to deal with the questions.
And are there any comments from any of the members of the committee? Go ahead.
Dennis Moore, I echo what Selectman Sanderson said about the process and appreciate Jim's work on this. It was thorough and it made our job pleasant, and I look forward to it. I'd also like to add that it was tough a decision because the three of the people organizations who bid on this were very close in their rankings. So we had a really it looked like we had a really good group of folks who were really in tune with what we needed. So it was, I thought, very thorough and complete.
Okay. And I would, go ahead.
Well, I'd like some clarification if I could. Is this vote just to give Ritchie Construction the contract to get the plans finalized and such, or are we going ahead to build the fire station?
No, it's the former.
Yeah.
This was a contract to be a design-build contractor. The first task in there is to create what's called a guaranteed maximum price. And so that's what we're retaining him to do at this point. We certainly don't have the amount of money that we would need to construct this, which would be somewhere between $2 and $3 million. That will still have to go through the entire budget committee process, public hearing in the town, as well as a bond hearing. So no, this is only to create that next step, which is a guaranteed maximum price.
And so the price on this preliminary step is $210,000. Is that correct?
No.
Should be, I'll pay it for money.
No.
No.
What is
Jim, I don't have the document in front of me. Maybe you can help us with the exact
The next
amount.
step we need is to expend $7,000 to get that dollar figure so that the budget committee can work on it, on that.
That's right.
Okay,
And-
so this,
And his bid was more in the nature of 77,000, I think.
Yes.
Yes. And so the $210,000 figure is not relating to his services.
what is it related to?
Let's see.
Says I have preliminarily estimated the cost of general conditions to be $210,000. It's the last page of it.
That's a total
That's the total bill. That would be his price after the total is done. The fire station is complete. That's his estimated number that he's looking at.
So what we're
Way in
doing
the
is,
future.
we're actually looking at spending 77,000?
7,000.
We're looking to spend
7,000.
another $7,000, and then we're gonna get the numbers that we need so that we can carry the question forward to the voters.
I will
Okay.
amend it to limit it to $7,000, make sure there's just clarification on that.
Well, you'll see right here in his proposal form, pre-construction services through March 1st, 2019 is $7,000, a stipulated sum. So your condition is already in there.
Right. Okay.
Yes, Jim?
Yeah, that's
We
fine.
do have to remember that in 2017, Article 8, $75,000 was voted on to look into building a fire station. Since that time, we have spent $5,700 on geotech work, as well as $320 to investigate the existing building. So there still remains $68,980 in that
Warrant article.
warrant article, and that 7,000 would be taken from that. In addition to that, we need to look at civil engineering and surveying, and that should be done pretty quickly as well. We're still looking at the numbers on that, and we will let the board know as soon as we have hard numbers on what direction that we want to take in that area.
Yeah, we're not expecting those numbers to be terribly high because we have so much information about this site already. We have a lot of information, so it's the surveying is not like creating a brand new survey out of nothing. It's verifying where corners are, marking them on the face of the earth. And with regard to the other civil engineering, it's primarily design of drainage and design of modifications to the existing septic system. We already know from our investigations that there is sufficient capacity, but exactly how it would be designed would be the task of that designer.
Okay.
Fine.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Any other costs besides engineering before it would go to a vote from the people?
None that the committee is aware of.
So that's it, engineering and surveying, and it's ready to go, that's it, no more monies will be spent
In the $7,000.
Yes.
above that?
Yeah.
And one thing we wanted to remark too, everything that we have done so far is still of value, even if it doesn't go to the voters this year after a bond hearing, or if the voters turn it down. Everything we have here is, it's not money wasted in any way. It's information that will be valuable anytime in the future.
There's no stupid rules coming through for DES that we gotta worry about.
Right.
Oh, you can never say that. But at least not, probably not now before
It's not
January.
so we're almost covered then.
Yeah. But my point is, when we learn more about on a survey, that's something that's here, it's valuable, it will continue to be valuable in years to come.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Anything from the public? Okay. I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Motion passes. Copley update.
Okay, last week I informed the board when I received a call from the EPA that the Breakfast Hill Golf Club, the clubhouse, has now tested positive for 1,4-dioxane as well. It had been testing positive at the lower level, and now that the level has been reduced to 0.32, their last testing came in at 0.68. So they are also positive. In your packet is a copy of a letter that has been sent from the Breakfast Hill Golf Club to the Copley Landfill Group and DES regarding the water conditions that they have to deal with. They currently have been put onto bottled water, which does not work for the golf course. And the letter goes on how they have ice machines, they have soda machines that depend on water systems. They can't do that with bottled water. So they are stating to the Copley Landfill Group that anything short of providing the golf club with a municipal water line is falling short of the Copley's Group obligation to make things right. I have not had any follow-up since this letter came in.
Do we know if the water source they use at the clubhouse is the same they use for irrigation?
No, it is not.
Okay, we do know that.
We do know that. The irrigation well is a separate well at the back of the property.
And testing on that, I take it, has not yielded 1,4-dioxane?
Correct.
Okay.
But they're both, I mean, this is wells on both of them, so we're still drawing from that, yes.
For informational purposes, the irrigation wells are shallow wells, whereas the drinking water wells are deeper.
Okay, all right. Okay.
It's a very fluid situation. I talked to Mary Ann Sewell directly, and they have an extensive filtration system already at the golf club, clubhouse for the concerns that they've had right along. So Peter Britz was going to be taking a look at what their system would do and if any changes needed to be made to that as well.
Okay. Is there anything, in your opinion, Paul, that we should do as the Board of Selectmen to follow up on this, time frame wise, or?
Well, I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to work with our health officer and building inspector, because if the 1,4-dioxane problem is not resolved, then the health officer needs to get involved, because this deals directly with health and safety of the public. And with regard to the wintertime, if nothing is done here, then how are we going to authorize them to do any sorts of things in their clubhouse that they oftentimes do over the wintertime? They have groups in there for various things. So we're going to have to worry about that. That's part of the damages that are being suffered here. In addition, this is terrible advertising, and real estate sales are being affected. And so the city is now going to have to come forward. They're starting to cause real damage, not only to this particular business, but also to pending real estate sales.
Okay.
So the remedy would seem to be easy, in that a line already exists in Deceiving Way, you know, the new thing, and this is literally across the street. So this is a tiny extension, but of course it's something that they're going to have to deal with. But that would seem to be an easy solution.
Okay. All right, so Karen, can you just let the health officer know, bring her up to date on what's going on so that we can move forward with this, because I just don't want this to drop.
Right. She was away, I talked to her Friday, and she was away at a tropical island calling about a different health issue that had been brought to her attention regarding church bells. But I will, as soon as she's back in town, we'll work on this.
Great.
I can explain, if you want me to, the health issue that she was contacted
No.
about. Jim kind of looked at me like,
Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm
Go ahead.
kind of curious.
Go ahead.
okay, we had a resident contact us about not a resident, a visitor, contact us about 6 months ago when she was here visiting her son who lives at the Captain Folsom Inn. She wrote a letter to us complaining about the church bells ringing and the lack of sleep that it causes and the health impacts of a lack of sleep and noise impacts. Day or two after that, the property owner came in apologized for the letter and said, don't worry about it, don't do anything. And that's where it sort of stopped. She has now followed up with the health officer from the city of Portsmouth, filing an official complaint, which was forwarded to our health officer regarding that same concern, that the noise from the church bells ringing at night is a health issue.
Oh. Well, I grew up with them.
Our health officer did not, she called me from her vacation, but did not feel that, in her expertise, that there is a health issue involved.
You think she went the tracks?
I will handle it whichever way the board wishes me to.
Don't worry about it. The only complaint I heard was when we had the skate races and they did the videoing, the crew slept there. He says, I slept through every one except that one. And it was 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock, slept right through it.
She's not a resident, she actually lives in California, but visits with her son.
That explains a lot.
Okay. Let's move on to the change order on Willowbrook and Great Bay Drive West.
Okay. This change order is for the construction of Great Bay Drive West, the reconstruction. When the contract was first approved by the board back in early 18 for Lyman Construction to move forward with the Willowbrook, the construction costs for Great Bay Drive West were not included. Because at that time it was uncertain what was going to be happening. So this change order, if I can get to that, it's an increase in the contract cost of $187,084.90. And the contract prior to it was $314,490. That breaks out into savings that were realized on Willowbrook with guardrails, selections and changes there, and adds in the $218,397.50 for the Great Bay Drive West Road reconstruction. That's a little higher than the original cost, but that now includes the 3 gravel access ways and the removal of a few additional trees.
If we can talk a little bit about those gravel access ways. My concern is, if you take a look at RSA 236.13, the driveway statute, points of access are what are granted under that statute. It concerns me that someone in the future might think that somehow the Board of Selectmen has granted 3 driveway permits here. And that's specifically what the board said not to do. Okay, how are we going to clarify this? How are we going to make our record perfectly crystal clear that these are not driveways?
Originally, this memorandum of understanding had that sentence to say, these do not constitute driveways as far as subdivision purposes.
Okay.
At that point, that's where the brackets would not sign it, without that sentence being removed.
But it was actually signed here with that sentence removed. But these are not driveways.
Correct. If the plans are clearly marked, access for land maintenance only.
Haven't we done nothing but create litigation if we don't
Yes.
clarify this?
And we tried, this was the sticking point with the brackets signing this agreement from day one.
Okay, but then why did we sign it with the sentence removed?
Because they weren't gonna sign it.
Well, okay, but I mean,
Because we had a problem. We have to get Great Bay Drive West situated. These are access points that they can use for maintenance. If the planning board allows them to, they can use them for driveways.
yes, in the future sometime.
And what we're doing right now with this discussion, going into the minutes, is the documentation. Is basically all we need to say is these weren't driveway permits, these are points of access. They can take their cows into the pasture if that's what they wanna do, take their tractors in and mow it, but it's no way, take construction equipment in and go.
Would that suffice?
We have to somehow make this absolutely crystal clear.
Right, that it's not for subdivision purposes. This is not saying that they have 3 lots
In any way.
in any way. They
Because-
have some access at areas to the land where we are raising the grade of the land 18 to 20, raising the grade of the road 18 inches and higher.
What they have is one lot bisected by a road.
Yes.
Now, please explain how we're going to pay for this.
What I have gone through, because I did that, on the financial part of it, we originally had a warrant article in 2017 for $300,000.
Mhm.
What is remaining and what has been spent and what is remaining available, because we encumbered that forward. Willowbrook has used a good portion of it. So what we have currently available in the 2018 budget is $154,471.37. What we need to complete the entire project is $115,744.80. And that would be in 2019. It can be removed, however the board wants to do it, from the Road Capital Reserve Fund, which last year we deposited $195,000 into it. And that was originally, the plan was to put that in there and we would use it for this project. Or it could come from the 2019 budget. Because the project is being submitted in through FEMA as a hazard mitigation grant. All indications have been that it's going to be approved. But that is not a guarantee. And no matter what, we would still have to appropriate it and then get the reimbursement from FEMA. So if it's appropriated through the budget, in that line item, in the budget that we currently have recommended at $200,000, we could use that money, and then it would be reimbursed by FEMA at some point during the year, and then could be reallocated to another project.
Okay. You were saying there's some amount left in the $300,000 warrant article.
$154,471. That's available in the 2018 budget.
Okay. So what we could do is we could encumber that
Yep.
without having any impact on our 2019 program.
No, because then we're still 115,000 short.
Okay. The total amount was a little over 500,000.
Correct. 501,574.
Okay. And then we spent how much for Willowbrook?
Well, with the engineering for both projects, the 501 is Lyman's bid.
Okay.
The engineering is 59,700, bringing the total projects, both projects together, to 561,274.
Okay.
We have paid out to date 291,058. That includes engineering for both projects and Lyman for the work on Willowbrook.
Okay. So the amount that we still need to somehow pay for the Great Bay West project is how much? The 187?
No. What is still left to finish both projects together is, because we're still holding a bunch of retainage and things like that. What we need is 270,000 total for both projects.
Okay.
We have 154 available. We will need 115 from the 2019 either budget or capital reserve fund.
So therefore, we would pay for that 270 by encumbering the 150 we have left.
Yes.
Okay. Plus, we need to raise 115 more.
Yes.
Okay. And so the question becomes whether it comes out of the 2019 budget or comes out of the capital reserve.
Yes.
Okay. So in part, this is going to be a budget committee discussion. Okay. Because if we take it out of our 2019 program, leaving the capital reserve alone, we will have taken 115 out of 120, right?
No, 115 out of 200.
Okay. But still really, really impacting it heavily.
Yes.
And so that would require our 2019 program to come out of capital reserve.
In 2019, we're looking at probably a warrant article for Bayside Road and Cemetery Lane, and if that is done with a total reconstruction, we have the estimate in at 41, 26 if we just pave,
Right.
41 if we
Redo it.
reconstruct.
For Cemetery Lane,
Yep.
Yes.
okay. And Bayside's yet unknown.
1.4.
That's if they have to do any of that extra.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay.
And does that include right-of-way clearance?
At this point,
I
discussed
don't
that the other
believe
day.
so. I think what we talked about was right-of-way. It does include the tree work.
Yeah.
What it doesn't do is it reconstructs the road in its current location.
No drainage easements.
Yeah, it would need drainage easements, but drainage easements don't cost us.
They might.
Generally, they don't cost us substantially because the person that we're doing the easement is the one who wants the water off their land as well.
Perhaps.
But there aren't any right-of-way issues that we saw because we're not going to move the road.
Okay.
The one thing I stress is he went back out, looked at the two culverts, the one by Underwood's driveway and then the one by Malone.
Okay.
The one that went behind your old property, the state replaced that just a few years ago.
So that one's okay.
That one's fine.
Okay. So we have two major drainage points.
Yep.
And then some minor ones stepping up the hill and then down the hill.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, that's that one. But I'm still trying to pay for the one we're about to build.
Right.
I just don't want to completely emasculate your 2019 program.
I asked Underwood if this could wait until the meeting of the 26th, and they said yes, it could. So if we want to go through tomorrow we meet with the budget committee for the first time. It's totally up to the board.
Okay, I guess I would rather wait to discuss this with the budget committee about how we're going to pay for it before we actually do it. And that'll give us another opportunity here to clarify. And I think that we can clarify by making sure that all of our minutes here indicating these are not driveway permits are placed on record with the planning board and with the building inspector. Okay, so that anyone looking at that particular parcel is going to trip over this and say, you know, all bets are off. If a subdivision comes forward, it's completely in the hands of the planning board, and that's all we're saying.
Right. And I'll pull all the minutes that we currently have that was clearly discussed as well, and make sure copies are in that street file.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Any other?
One.
Yes. Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Cheryl Strong. So where do we sit on the Great Bay Road project? Are we still on a hold? We still waiting for signatures? Nothing's happening in 18? Where we at?
Nothing is happening in 18, or there may be some minimal tree work and things that we can do in 18, as soon as the board agrees to this change order, assigns this change order. The substantial completion date is set as May 31st of 19.
Yeah.
And final completion June 30th of 19.
So do we have all the signatures from Brackett that we need?
yes.
Yes.
So not waiting on him for anything?
No, I think the decision will, right now, it's funding mechanisms. What's the best way to pay for it?
It isn't so much if we fund it, it's how we fund it.
In other words, it will be funded, just need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, anything else on,
Well, I have a question. If we have money set aside in the capital improvement fund, wouldn't that be the logical place to use it? I mean, are we expecting any?
I think that the two potential methods would be, as Karen was saying, yes, you could do that. And then we could encumber the amount that we have left in the 18 appropriation. And together, those two amounts would be enough. What that does is it reduces the capital reserve program as anyone is considering the future of Bayside. Because we don't have $1.4 million for that either. So, That, it was only just as a matter of respect to the budget committee to have that discussion before we make our decision, that's all. Get their considered judgment on
We
it.
still wanna go forward with this motion, though, just to stay clean on the,
Are we tabling this?
change order, or do you wanna wait till next meeting?
Well, you're gonna be the representative of the budget committee. And so, do you think that we should be discussing it with them and talking this through with them? Or is this a decision that just belongs to us?
On this particular road, I think it belongs with us. When we start talking about Bayside, we gotta get them involved.
Okay. Okay, then, do you wanna make a motion?
Change order. Move to approve the change order improvements on Willowbrook Avenue, Great Bay Drive West, bringing the contract price with all approved changes to $501,574.90 with contractor Wyman and Sons.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, I just reiterate my discussion here, that we're gonna make sure that documentation is provided in our street files as to the fact that these are not driveways.
So as I said, now the price is set. Now we go in and we say, this is what it's gonna cost, this is the options.
Okay, all right, motion
Okay.
passes.
Okay,
It's something for a lot, a whole bunch.
Okay. Anybody have any discussions on any other old business before I do? Okay, I'd like to revisit the minutes from October 29th, specifically our conversation regarding Karen's comments that it was prudent to use the bond funds first rather than the capital reserve funds. And I've been asked by several residents, what's the difference? Both funds have been earmarked to the library. Logically, it seems as though the CRF should be drained before the borrowed funds are used, only because they came first. So they want to know, can somebody please explain,
My thought is that the project is a not to exceed at 3.5, with the bond at 2.9 and the CRF at 650. That takes care of it. It's a tight budget and it's a not to exceed. I would be very comfortable if the board decided to use all of the CRF except for maybe 75,000 or 100,000, and then deplete bond funds. You can do it whichever way you want. If there's bond funds left over 1 year after the project is complete, there's quite a process to handle that.
okay. Paul, you were
It's
the
another
other.
warrant article to revoke the authorization for that much of it. There's steps that can be taken. My recommendation was only to make it easier in the accounting end of it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
to me, I'm just thinking cost, because the bond funds we're paying interest on them right now?
Yes, 3.14%.
Okay. But it would seem to me that we should use our savings first, okay, and before we use our borrowed funds. And at the end of that bond process, I suppose if there's anything left over, then it can just be paid down on principal. Because, it's going to take a vote of the town anyway to close the
Right.
account.
Right, it does take a vote of the town to use it for anything other than that, but,
And there's no prepayment penalty.
right, there's no prepayment penalty. What I don't know is on the arbitrage rules, that I would have to dig into it, but it's been done many times. I was only looking for simplicity.
Yeah, to me, I'd like to use our existing funds first.
I agree with that.
Okay. You agree?
Fine with me, I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's gonna be expended one way or another.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, I guess maybe since we're on this particular point, we have some documentation here with some counting. And could you explain our different manifests that we have in front of us that talk about
Yes.
library funds?
Yes. The bills that we have spent, we've paid to date for the library, and if I can have the one of the manifest, the yellow one, it has it all explained by the auditor. And it's easier for me to read that from there. There we go. What the auditor is recommending is all costs and revenue for the project be maintained in a separate capital fund account, which is what we've established. The bond money was deposited into a separate account at the Provident, known as the Library Capital Fund. They have guaranteed, they have issued at the interest rate of the same that we get on our general fund of 1.89. And now the funds that we had expended for the library out of the general fund need to be transferred to be expensed out of that bond money. And we've received deposits from the trustee of the trust fund reimbursing those same bills, and those checks had been deposited into the general fund.
I see. So far, cash has come out of the general fund and you're using the capital reserve fund to reimburse?
And the deposits, there are two checks. This is a check for $176,224 from the capital reserve fund, the capital project fund, to the general fund of $176,000. That
Sorry.
It's okay. All right. And we've worked very closely with the auditor on it because Liz really wanted to know what to do. What she had already done is deposited the $72,000 from the last check of the trustees went into the capital fund. She received $1,200 from the library of legal fees that was put into a general fund. So what we need to do is cut the check from the general fund here in the amount of the $176,224.15. That gets deposited into the general fund. And then we cut a check from the general fund in the amount of $73,617.88, and that gets deposited into the capital fund.
Okay. My question, this is a new capital fund that's not the same as the existing capital reserve fund?
Correct, absolutely.
Then why haven't we taken those initial expenses out of the capital reserve fund to reimburse?
We have, but the check has been paid. We can't cut checks from the capital reserve fund.
Right.
So the checks have been paid from the general fund, and the deposits from the trustee of the trust funds have gone into the general fund.
Okay.
So those transactions have to be physically moved over into the project fund. And so what these two checks is what is going to do it.
So this is going to happen again as we deplete the capital reserve fund?
No, from this point forward, the check will be written out of the capital project fund. We request it from the trustee of the trust fund, it gets deposited to the capital project fund.
So general fund won't be involved again?
Nope.
Okay.
But these are the audit actions to clear them back up.
To clear your general fund for the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Liz, and I commend Liz because she worked really hard with Ashley from Plodzik and Sanderson on.
On how?
Right. I had said, since they wash out, can't you just do a general journal entry? And they really, because it's a capital project fund with a bond, they want to see the checks cut from that
Okay.
to see the physical transfer of the funds.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, I'm glad I asked. It was that complicated.
It was, but this is $176,000 from the bond money going back basically into the general fund to reimburse what we've done.
Okay.
And the check in there, in that manifest, is the revenue we received from trustees of the trust fund for the project that belongs in here.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that clarifies it for the
It
people
simplifies
that asked me
everything
the
down
questions,
to,
because if it doesn't, I'm gonna send them to you.
no, tell them to listen
I'll
to
send
those
them
things.
to you.
Right, but everything is now in one fund, And there's very few line items. It's going to be income from the bond, income from capital reserve, expense from bond, expense from capital reserve. And so at this point, based on the consensus of the board, all expenses will come from capital reserve first, and the trustees will reimburse it. And then when that is depleted, we'll work on the bond money.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments from the board? Okay, thank you. And again, as our conversation, our meeting on October 29th, have we obtained a copy of the architect's contract?
No, not yet.
I'll see you to that.
Thank you. She'll take care of it. Yeah.
Well, that's all right. You don't have to bring it up right now, but if you could do me a favor and give a copy of that to Karen, and unless it's 150 pages, if we could just distribute that in my...
56.
It's what?
It's pretty lengthy.
It's pretty big.
Very, very specific.
All right.
But we need it on file for the audit anyway.
Yeah. So it's available for...
Yes, so with that, there is the copy with LaValle Brensinger. Is there a separate document with regard to the construction manager?
Project manager, I'll find out.
Braun, yeah. And then we also should have copies of bond documentation.
Okay.
Copies of their performance bond or our bond itself?
Our bond.
Okay, we have all that.
We have, yes.
We have that. I have it in files in my files, and copies are also in the vault.
I am sure you're going to get questions from Budget Committee members regarding these things.
That's fine.
And we just want to have them available electronically so people can see them.
Yep.
Okay. Review of the town administrator's report.
All right, the board had signed the approvals or voted to approve those farmers market requests to sell alcohol. Those have been approved and sent to the New Hampshire Liquor Commission. The caveat had been to indicate that commercial uses were approved for that property based on the variances that existed. So we did research on that. There was one variance that had been issued when the nursery was established, and it was a subdivision of land variance, basically creating the back lot for the nursery. And the only caveat on its use, it was allowed to be used as commercial purposes, not necessarily restricted to agriculture. And the notes were commercial uses approved as long as it didn't change the nature of the Breakfast Hill neighborhood.
Okay.
So farmers market does fall under some of the agricultural issues of selling retail products. And our review was that it doesn't change that commercial nature.
Okay. I think we can skip Great Bay Drive West.
I think we did that.
Huh?
We already went through
Yeah,
that.
we went through that. Budget.
Yep, tomorrow is the first budget review.
Yeah.
The difference between the default budget and the proposed budget going to the budget committee is $102,067.
Okay.
Coakley contamination, that
did that
is,
too, I
yeah,
think.
we did that. That is regarding the Breakfast Hill Golf Course. And I had been requested at one of the selectmen's meetings, a couple meetings back, to look into eliminating paper timesheets and move forward with an electric timekeeping system. We just finished a 2-week free trial with T-Sheets, which was an electronic computer mobile app-based system. We found that it was not efficient and worked for our uses. We tried it. Everybody had hiccups with it. It wouldn't register for you sometimes. Paul was the only one using it as a mobile app, while the rest could log in on their computers. So that we found is a fail. I've been working with Chief Crester on this as well, because he wants to do whatever we move forward with. So now we're looking at an actual card swipe system that would have kiosks in both our building and the fire station. similar to what the chief uses in his place. And I've got 2 or 3 vendors looking at what would work for a smaller
Okay,
operation.
all right. Any comments?
Ralph does.
That will work with the QuickBooks we're using now for
Yes.
payroll? That's what you found so far?
Yeah, and the T-sheets, the reports, T-sheets looked like it was gonna be the easiest way, but even the reports it generated, even though it said it tied into Intuit and QuickBooks, didn't work. And what was showing on the screen and the reports weren't matching, and
What do you,
that test was a fail.
what do we have for figures so far, or we don't have any final figures?
Right now, I have a total cost of only like $15,000, which would be 2 kiosks and the swipe cards. I've watched the demo that the salesman sent to me, but I've got 2 other companies that are also calling, and so I've got some more comparisons to do, but it was much more reasonable than I anticipated.
Did you say $50,000?
No, 15.
15.
Cancel the defense.
No, it wasn't as expensive as I thought it would be.
Okay. All right, under other new business, Chester, do you want to comment on this dock permitting thing that you,
I asked the building inspector, if and what process we had for permitting, docks on Great Bay. And he put together a nice package. It was nothing to do with any particular dock, just, from my own knowledge of the permitting process in Greenland.
okay?
They're different in every town. And, there's a lot to it with DES, et cetera. So that's it.
Okay, all right.
The only other thing I have for new business that we're not going to discuss tonight, but just pass out, is this is the first list of warrant articles that have been discussed by the board, and what the impacts look like in preparation of the budget committee meeting tomorrow night, just so that there is something already put together.
Okay.
So this basically is the 2 positions that had been discussed. Adjustments to the optional veterans credit and the disabled veterans credit. A solar energy exemption, which really isn't an impact to the tax rate, that has been requested by a couple of residents. And some of the back history on that is that Greenland never picked up we never assessed the value of solar equipment. And in 2018, with the reval, DRA required that you now had to pick up that cost, the value of the equipment. And if you wanted to exempt it, you had to adopt the statute that allowed the solar exemption.
Okay,
So the exemption would be equal to the assessed value of the equipment. So they would wash each other out. But that's just that's FYI stuff as we get ready into budgets. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more that come around.
okay.
Is that just solar, or does that include like the wind?
It can.
The Volkswagen?
All I've done is the RSA 61, the one for solar. It can be expanded to wind, but at the Volkswagen place, theirs is inactive. It's actually inoperable at this time, so the value has been
Nothing.
pretty much nothing, because it's just a pretty decoration in the yard right now.
What's the deadline for these articles?
January, let's see, public hearing is January 11th, so I believe it's January 10th, it's the Tuesday.
Okay. All right, if you find it's a different date, just ask Charlotte to revise the minutes and.
Okay, yeah, for a bond, it is January 8th.
For the bond, yeah.
Bond has an earlier date because it's due to its public hearing requirements.
Okay. Okay, let's see what else we have here.
Just one, there was a typo in this article about the fire gear.
Okay,
The word B is in the second paragraph. Contaminated gear does not have to warn. I
Oh.
assume it should be warned.
yep, perfect, thank you.
Any other new or old business or any other issues anybody would like to discuss? Yes, Ralph.
I wasn't on the agenda, and I don't know if we can bring this up or not. We went back, I gotta go back to March when we had the fire down to the, yeah,
Yeah.
the old gas station.
Yeah.
I didn't know it though.
That's right, thank God. Out of my budget, I had to buy some new gear, and we were trying to get the money back from some of the insurance companies. We sent it in to Primex at this point, which we have $10,000 worth of coverage. They haven't responded from what I'm understanding now, and I'm a little short on trying to get some new equipment. I've lost an exhaust fan, and I've also lost one of my 4 gas detectors. That's 2 of the biggest things, but we could use some other equipment also, and I didn't know which way we wanted to go, or you want to go to the next meeting.
So I take it this is equipment that was lost in fighting that fire. This is not new equipment. This is
No.
just replacing
No,
things.
the fire gear was the equipment cost. We spent, I think it was $15,000 or $18,000 on it. This stuff is just stuff that won out from this year. It's nothing to do with that at all. But
Right,
the money come out of my budget.
Right, the damaged equipment has been replaced, but as a result, he doesn't have the money to buy other things that he had planned.
Oh, okay, so it's really kind of a two-step process.
Mhm.
There is a claim into insurance for his fire
Yeah,
gear.
and I'm gonna follow up on that, because none of the other towns have received it either, I don't think, right?
Yes, Newmarket got theirs checked right away. I don't know what happened with that. But there was some other towns that did. The insurance company declined our claim from the property owner, which wasn't Chip. So they declined our claim on that, so we put it through Primex, and I think we had $10,000 worth of coverage, is that correct?
That's what I believe. Initially, I think they had said 1, and then they said it was 10.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna follow up on that. What I did tell the chief is that we do have, because of he wasn't able to get his lieutenants on board
Mhm.
in time, I do have funds available through the health insurance that was budgeted for those 2 positions at 9 months based on family plans.
So what we need is a motion to transfer.
Yeah, if we can transfer the $10,000 that he's short from the insurance back into his account from health insurance.
Then I would move that we approve the transfer of $10,000 from firefighter health insurance to firefighter equipment replacement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We gotta remember, we might not get back that $10,000 if they decline us also.
Right, but we're not going to need that insurance money
I'm talking-
regardless.
Right, okay.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
So that should allow you to acquire the property you need.
Yes, sir.
All right, anything else anybody else would like to discuss? Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Let's do the manifest.
I'd like to move approval of payroll manifest number 23 in the amount of $56,492.21.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I'd like to move approval of the capital fund library accounts payable in the amount of $176,224.15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I'd like to move general funds accounts payable in the amount of $106,740.29, of which $75,897.88 is a transfer to the library expansion capital fund.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. I have been asked by a department head for a non-public session. And motion to enter into a non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3, comma 2C regarding personnel.
I'd like to move that we approve that and make that a roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote, starting from my right.
Anderson, yes?
Rocky, yes.
Morgan, yes?
Ralston, yes.
All set.
Okay.
Okay, just a moment, and I will,
That's outside of shutting Rocky Lynn's out of the building.
I'm turning off the recorder.
Okay.